All right, so on this next example, I'm abbreviating a lot of things. I want to graph y equals -1/3 x squared, and then we're still comparing it to the parent graph, figuring out whether the graph opens up or down, finding the vertex, and then AOS is the axis of symmetry. So notice in my table, I actually selected different values, and here's why. I noticed that the fraction is -1/3. After I square x, then I'm actually going to divide that by -3. So I picked multiples of 3 here. So -6 squared, because I have to do order of operations, which means exponents first. It would look like this. Y is equal to -1/3 times -6 squared. But -6 squared is 36. And then times -1/3 is -12. Excuse me. -3 squared is 9. And then times -1/3 is -3. -1 squared is 1 times -1/3 is -1/3. 0 squared is 0 times -1/3, 0. And then just repeat the process. 1 squared is 1 times -1/3 is -1/3. 3 squared, 9. And then times -1/3 is -3. 6 squared is 36 times -1/3 is -12. And again, notice on my graph, I went by 3's again on the y-axis. So I have -6, -12, which would be right here. -3 is right here. -1 and -1/3 right there, 0, 0, and so on. Graphing these numbers pretty quick. And 6, -12 will be right here. So the graph, still a parabola for every graph of a quadratic function. Arrows on each end. Make sure that you have that. But what we're comparing that to is y is equal to x squared. So in red, I have y equals x squared, all the same points that we've had this whole time, like 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, 0, 0. But for the blue graph, y equals -1/3 x squared. It opens down, first of all, which means compared to y is equal to x squared, it's reflected, specifically in the x-axis. There's a vertical shrink because it's wider. And the vertex, again, of both of the graphs, but specifically the blue graph, or y equals -1/3 x squared, is 0, 0. And then lastly, the axis of symmetry. That hasn't changed. It's still x equals 0, or in other words, the y-axis. Here's the axis of symmetry for both of the graphs. You have to be familiar with all the terms here. Parabola opens up or down, vertex, axis of symmetry, and so on. So that's a graph of y equals -1/3 x squared.